Okay, we ready?
Yes, sir.
All right, most of the time, if you want to set up your Cartesian coordinate system, you go to Create, and you're going to get a drop-down menu, Line, and you hit both. You go to Keyboard, and make sure everything is 0, X, Y, Z, and hit OK. There's your Cartesian coordinate system. Okay, now what I can do is take and create a rectangle out of this drawing that I see here. So what I'm going to do is go back and create an offset line. And I look down here and it says select element to offset a 1/2 inch. Well, I'm going to change my offset, and I'm going to make the width of the part, or the height of the part I should say, and I'll set 3 and hit OK. Now down here it says what element do you want to offset by 3. I'm just going to choose this line, and now it asks me what side do I want to put it, this side or that side. Well, I'm going to put it up in the positive quadrant. So I've just made a copy of my Cartesian coordinate line. Okay. Now I want to get the vertical line, so I'm going to go back, offset, change my offset because it says 3 down there to the full width, which is 6, and hit OK. It'll ask me the same questions. What element do I want to offset? Well, it's this one. What side? That side. Okay. Now I can go ahead and edit, trim break, and delete that, and go around the whole thing and just get rid of what you don't need anymore. Now I can fit that to the screen by just touching this one. It says fit. I've got my basic rectangle. Okay, there's a couple of things I see on here. I've got a couple of radiuses. So I'm going to say create an arc tangent to, which means tangent to 2 elements. Okay. And it says that the radius is 1/2 inch on the screen. It defaults to that. But this radius is 375, so I'm going to change my radius to 0.375 and hit OK. Now it says first tangent entity. Well, I'll just choose that line and that line, and it'll put my radius in. Then I'll go over here and choose that line and that line. Now I've got my 2 arcs in there, so I can go into edit, trim break, just get rid of that, come over here and do the same thing, like that. Now, I'm looking at these angular lines, and what we can do for that is create a line at an angle, but look what's going to happen. It says select an element location angle 0 length 1 info change. Do we know the angle there? No. So I can't use that to create an angular line. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and create some points, because it's telling me where those lines start on the drawing. So I'm going to cancel that. And I'm going to go back. And actually I'm going to create a point, use keyboard, and I'm going to figure out where that point is. So my X value is 0. Okay, but my Y value is 1.5. So I'm going to just tab down 1.5 and hit OK. That's where the start of that angle line comes. Now I'm going to go keyboard again, Now it's going to be x2, tab down, and 0. And hit OK. So now I've got my 2 points, and when I want to create a line, create a line, endpoints, point. Creating a line, select the starting point right there, ending point there. Now I'm going to do the other one before I go into trim break again. So we're going to go ahead and create point, keyboard, and my x value is going to be 4 and 0. Hit OK. The point showed up right there. And keyboard. Now it's 6 for x. Tab down. And 1.5 for y. Hit OK. And now I can create my line. Create my line. Endpoints. Choose point. Start point. End point. Now I can go ahead and edit, trim break, get rid of that and that. And it's a good time to get rid of your points too, because you really don't need them. So edit, delete, and choose your points. Now what would happen if you didn't get rid of the points is when you go to drive the end mill around this part, it's going to stop at those points. Okay, now I've got this center section right in here. I see a point right in the center right there. Okay, so create a point. Keyboard, I use keyboard a lot. The center of that is going to be between 2.5 and 3.5. So it's a 1-inch arc in there. So it's 3 for x. 3 for x, tab down, and it tells me where the center is in y, 2.25. And hit OK. Now I'm going to create a circle. Center diameter, and it's a 1-inch diameter. Hit OK. Where is that center point? Right there. Okay. Now create a line. I could go vertical, or I could go if I go vertical, I can choose keyboard, and that's what I'm going to do in this case. So keyboard, the x value is 2.5, and that's all you need. You don't need a y value, 0, because it's a vertical line. Hit OK. Now there's a couple ways I can create the other line, and one is to do an offset line. I can go back, offset line, and change my offset. Instead of 6, we're going to put in 1. Hit OK. And what element? This element. What side? That side. That's one way to do it. I could have done it using keyboard again. Now I'm going to edit, trim break. Now watch what happens with this circle. I'm going to hit the top of the circle, anywhere on top. And the trim break, how that works is it breaks it to the next element that's on here. We consider all these lines and circles and points all elements. It'll break it to the next element. Okay, so I'm just going to take that away. Then I'm going to break this one out, and that one out, this. And don't forget that you've got these up here as well, and then there's some down here too. Whoops, wrong one. Undo. Okay, so basically I've got my part done, with the exception of the holes. So now I have to create 2 points. And there's a number of ways to do this too, but this is the simplest way to show you. Keyboard, I know that that point is 375 in x. and in Y it's up 2.625. Hit OK. Now the next point I could do an offset command, or I could just go back to keyboard again and create another point. So I've already got my Y value, it's in the same level, but my X value is down here, 5.625. So 5.625, and hit OK. Now my part's done. I really don't need this point. It's not going to hurt anything, however, to leave it there. Now if I wanted to dimension this, now here's one of the things that you guys, most of the students forget about. If I go to dimension this, the standard default dimensioning is very big. It's like that big on the screen. So you have to change that. So if I want to put dimensioning in here, the first thing I'm going to do is edit, text dimension, style, geometry, and change that dimension scale to maybe a 0.3. And just hit OK. And hit OK again. Now I'll change my color. And let's just change it to green. It really doesn't matter. Then I'm going to zoom out. Right there. And make my part smaller. I'm clicking it over and over again. Okay. Now I can go create, text or dimension, linear, and I'll go from this point to the end point of this line. Now when I say end point, if I went up towards here, it would go up to where it transitions into a radius. As long as you're below the halfway point, it's going to make that right there. And you can put it either, I haven't clicked the mouse yet, you can move it wherever you want. And I'll put it right there. Once you click the mouse again, it goes in. Okay, create, I can go back. And now let's say I want a radius. It says what arc? This one. I click the mouse once and I can put it anywhere I want. Click it again and it stays there.
I'll give you the radius.
Okay, and it's telling me the radius. For other linear dimensions, linear, we've got from, the next one would be from the end point down here to the end point of this line. And it'll give you two. You have an option. You can go that way or this way. It'll tell you both. But in this case, we want the height. So I'll click it again. So you can go through your part and dimension everything if you want it to look like this. Now if I wanted to figure out what this angle is, what I would do is go do this. Create a line. Horizontal. Keyboard. And I'll make them all zeros. Which means horizontal line from my zero reference point. And hit OK. And then I can go create text dimension, angular. What angle? Pick a line for angular. This one and this one. And it'll actually tell you the angle you've got there. Okay? If you needed to know that.
What is that angle?
It's 36 degrees, 52 minutes, 11.6 seconds. On the screen here it says 36.87 degrees. So it converts angles into decimals of a degree. Now here's the problem I ran in with creating that horizontal line. I've doubled up lines right across there. Now that's a problem because it is a real line, it's not a dimension line. Dimension lines don't matter when you bring tools in.